Very much. For more on this, let's bring in Caroline Downey, National Review columnist, and Gianno Caldwell, Fox News political analyst. Good to have you both here. Caroline, I get a sense that what we're seeing is a growing apprehension from the public because of all the stuff that's come out about these socialist candidates, the Marxist tendencies, if not out-and-out communist tendencies that some of them have. And people are very wary of that right now. Is it too early to say that?
Well, look, I think it's very clear that there's an insurgency going on within the Democratic Party. Some of the heavyweights are saying, oh, well, it's a healthy discernment. It's a debate about the direction of the party. No. It is a hostile takeover. And it turns out that Chuck Schumer and a couple others are willing to lie down and take it. They're saying, well, we would rather adapt and accommodate these insurgents to survive than actually reckon with what the heart and soul of our party is, which used to be free enterprise and capitalism. For a very long time, that was not in dispute between Republicans and Democrats. Now, apparently it is. But I'd say there's the key races we need to look at. Obviously, in Michigan, El Sayed is coming in hot. But, you know, that's a competitive state, if not a battleground, right?
Trump by the way, the numbers are almost dead even right now, 46% per candidate. But I want to bring Gianno in because there is a little bit of pushback from some mainstream candidates, from some of the old guard, and about what's happening. And El Sayed, she's not come out fully in favor of him, although she kind of is, but she's definitely come out fully against his backer, Mr. Piker, Hassan Piker, who is just in so many ways an awful influence in the body politic of America. It just can't be understated how bad he is, or overstated how bad he is. But Debbie Dingell herself, here's what she said about Hassan Piker's influence in the Democratic Party. Roll tape.
I think it's incumbent upon Abdul to make it very clear to people that he doesn't agree with things that Hassan Piker says. I pray we're not going to see him in Michigan from now until the election.
Gianno, he can't shake what happened the day before. The entire day he was with Piker, El Sayed was, and hobnobbing with him and having jokes with him and everything. I mean, you just can't strip that away. And believe me, Rogers, his competitor, Rogers, the GOP candidate, is going to be putting that out in ads from now until November.
Hassan Piker is a far-left lunatic who I've personally debated one-on-one in person on Fox LA. People can go on YouTube and find it. I destroyed him. And I got to be honest with you. The fact that the Democratic Party, many of them have embraced the kind of rhetoric, anti-Semitic rhetoric that's come from Hassan Piker and these ridiculous ideas shows you where the Democratic Party is. They're looking for an audience wherever they can get it. If it's the KKK, I'm sure they'll be more than willing to take some of that support. And I know that sounds very harsh to say, but we've seen some very hateful voices in the Democratic Party who've supported this kind of rhetoric before. Robert Byrd being one of those people who was a mentor, I believe, to Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton, one of them, but they both supported him. So when it comes to these new rationales that the Democratic Party tries to push out, like people like Hakeem Jeffries, who wants to say that the rhetoric is hateful, which it is, and it has no place in the Democratic Party, you can't even mention Hassan Piker by name.
Right.
So what is the point of you making these statements if you can't be fully transparent about who you're referring to and say enough is enough? But that's not what the Democratic Party is. They've become the socialist party, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, in many ways they have. Let's talk about economics, Caroline, because affordability by far is the top issue in the campaign. I think it's of interest to 55% of the people, put it in the top. And the number two issue, I think immigration, is only 10%. So I know it's tough to win elections based on saying something about how it used to be. There it is. 56% say it's the top issue. 10% immigration is next. But you look at what has happened since Biden came into office, and Biden, for the 4 years of Biden, the real wages, the inflation-adjusted wages, were down 3.9%. Americans lost 4% of their purchasing power because of Biden's inflation. Under just a year and a half, that red is Trump underneath. That's just a year and a half he's been in office, and it's up 1.2%. Now, I know you can't blast the trumpets for 1.2% gain, but it's a lot better than a 4% loss, and we're going in the right direction. Are Republicans doing enough to get that message across?
Well, we are pretty close to the Federal Reserve's target rate, first of all, because Trump took this seriously, bringing down that rate. But look, ad nauseum, we've heard Democrats repeat the affordability mantra. And it's absolutely fair for voters to demand an economy in which they can afford the things that they want. But the problem is the prescription for affordability that they're giving will not bring the cost of any major commodities down. All they have is welfare benefits, they have more government intervention, and they have Medicare for all, which El Sayed conveniently forgets to mention that to fund such a sweeping single-payer health care program would require taxing the middle class. The math doesn't compute if you don't hit the middle class.
Gianno, let's talk about the number 2 issue, immigration. I know a lot of people think that Donald Trump went too far with ICE and some of these apprehensions that didn't involve dangerous criminals. They involve people who came in illegally, but there's so many of those dangerous criminals that now are not being, the ICE agents that go in to get them are not getting any help by these sanctuary cities and full states like Hochul in New York or Spanberger in Virginia. And in Virginia, you just had this extraordinary case of this immigrant who came in 2024. There was actually He's been in for many years, but there was a deportation order against him that ICE submitted to Virginia. Didn't matter because Spanberger's saying, don't cooperate. We're a sanctuary state. We're not going to cooperate at all with ICE. He was finally arrested August 20th. That was a couple of weeks ago for selling fentanyl near a school, and in that school there were 2 overdoses of students who probably got their drugs from this guy. Finally, ICE caught up with, but no thanks from the governor or the local police who were told not to cooperate. I think Americans are fed up with that.
No, I absolutely agree with you that Americans are fed up with that. Why? Because we see the lives of many Americans being slaughtered at the hands of illegal immigrants who are running throughout our country. Many have been those who come through who have committed crimes, whether they be in the United States or in their own country. And we also got to keep in mind, I know you said people may think ICE has gone too far, but we have to look at it in context. The context is far left, multimillionaires, if not billionaires, that put money in to create this destruction, these protests. They're not organic. These are been events that people are getting paid a good dollar to go out and protest and commit these kind of atrocities, pushing back on law enforcement and violence. So when that comes to mind, I think about the job that ICE does, which is incredibly important and one in which they've done successfully under the Obama administration, may I add you, where there was a ton of praise from the left-wing media and politicians about the job that ICE was doing. So we can't play these games or even frame a conversation through the lens of the left-wing media who's been wrong on just about every event.
Well, remember, Tom Homan was awarded by President Obama for doing such a great job. And you know, he was known as the deporter-in-chief by some people, but the press generally gave him plaudits for stuff he didn't even do. Remember, he got that 100%. Nobel Peace Prize before he'd done anything at all. Caroline, Gianno, great to see you both. Thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate it.